and most of them are bitterly hated by Republicans. But I did have one on speculation a year ago, and I actually had a lot of even right-wingers say, well, I really agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Well, I think that, I think they do. You start looking at sort of the underpinnings of the anger that's out there. You know, Tea Party organizations. Really, what it is they're angry about sort of, I want to wear a word, a nebulous or a faceless power structure that seems to always benefit.
Yeah.
And down here, they want more money out of our pockets for taxes. They want, and you know, we don't have any control over it. And I think that's what's driving a lot of this. And it's not just a right issue. I think it's a left-right issue. I think there's a lot of people out there just feeling very frustrated. I don't have a voice anymore. I don't have a say anymore. You know, you tax without representation, if you want to use that word. And I want to know that my government is protecting me, not out to get me. And I think that's not a right or a left issue. That's just a people issue. And so it becomes this, you know, is it a people movement versus an elite? And how do we put some stops on the elite, and especially on the banking system? I mean, you look at the underpinnings, this absolute flagrant greed has got us in the mess we're in. And we've gone time and time again. The Fed continues to monetize debt, lowers our buying power, raises, you know, the cost of everything. And, you know, how long do you sustain that? Now, we've said that the magicians on Wall Street have been able to kind of keep us pretty stable over the last 30, 40 years. But ultimately, we can see that there's major hiccups, and those major hiccups cause major pain. And something's got to change. And I think number one, if you look at, you know, economics in general, I look at the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, you know, is an organization we don't have much oversight. We have no oversight. And finally, there's two individuals, and I'll tell you, they're on either side of the political spectrum. They would have never gotten tracked. Bernie Sanders, who's a socialist from Vermont, okay, he's in the Senate now. And you got Ron Paul, who's a libertarian Republican from Texas. Each of them are basically sponsors of the same bill. That's audit the Fed, okay? Bernie Sanders' version just passed, 96 votes. There were 4 people that weren't in the Senate because of illness. Unanimous vote, yes, and I don't know what where the House one is at this point. But it's interesting, 2 people on these far ends of the spectrum are saying, this is a problem here. And so I think as you sort of look at the problem, people are feeling very frustrated that this organization literally just, you know, like puppet strings, sort of orchestrates this whole economic scene that goes on. And now you go, we are pretty vulnerable to a very few people. And those people need to be answerable to the people. And I think an audit of the Fed is the minimum what we should do, probably a lot more. So, yeah.
So Rob Bishop's had a lot to say about the possible layoffs at ATK.
Yeah.
I just wonder what your take is
You know,
on that.
I'm reading and listening and hearing all the reports. Number one, I don't think it's. You can't sit there and point a finger and blame Rob Bishop and say, well, it's his fault, it's falling apart, because it's not. There's obviously an administrative choice here. They made a choice. Do I agree with it? Well, for the sake of our area, no, I don't. Okay? I don't agree with it. I can see kind of where they're coming from, but it's interesting from his perspective and from a conservative Republican's perspective, you want to privatize everything. Well, they're privatizing space right now. They're doing exactly what they have been calling for over and over again for years, and now he's crying foul. And so I think it's a little disingenuous, because in the privatization of space is, well, we're going to privatize it, farm it out to this group and that group, and of course we're now kind of left holding the bag, you know. So it's a sad situation. It's going to hurt, and if it all goes down, I mean, we're talking a lot of those jobs. These guys are making $100,000 a year, you know, or more. I've got neighbors. I've got 3 neighbors that have been either early retiremented out or laid off, and it's going to hurt. Cache Valley, I think we've got 300 people there to commute over, or maybe even more. That's going to hurt Cache Valley. That's a lot of income out of circulation. So it's a sad situation. You know, I wish he would have done something with his own party when they were proposing their budgets. They would have laid something out there, but apparently he never did fight for anything until now one that's on the axe. So he never looked forward enough, and looked forward enough even to find something to come in to replace. There was just no forward thinking at all. He was just sort of sitting there, and once again, in my estimation, not representing us, just sort of being there but not representing us. And so, but you know, I can't blame him for what's happened in the administration. That's not his blame, but I think a little foresight on his part, and maybe some of the others in the delegation here, might have been beneficial. So. Other thoughts, questions? Yes.
What is your thoughts about immigration?
Immigration, well, it's the hot button issue of the year. Nobody wants to deal with it. I've just heard that kind of, you know, there's some talk that the Arizona law came up basically to force President Obama's hand. So it'd be a wedge issue for him, because you're kind of on this one, you know, you're sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't. I've looked at this for a long time. When I lived in California in agriculture, I worked on the border, and literally on the Mexican side of the border, I remember working in one field doing some agricultural stuff there, and there was a canal bank. There were 20 Mexican nationals laying in the canal bank, and I turned to my partner who was Mexican, and I said to him, I said, "What are they doing, just taking a nap?" He goes, "Oh, no, look." He pointed across the Rio Bravo, which was about that deep at the time, water, okay? He pointed across the Rio Bravo, and there was a Border Patrol agent sitting there in a Ford Bronco. And he says, "Just watch." So we were doing work, and I was kind of keeping my eye on the Ford Bronco, and they're all laying down in the ditch. It takes about an hour's time, we're sitting there, you know, I mean, they're sitting there. And the guy in the Ford Bronco pulls out and drives off to go for a coffee break or a bathroom break or something. As soon as he's out of sight, the 20 jump up out of the canal and just ran across the border. It's like, whoa, it just works just like that. I mean, it totally blew me away. It's like, I'd never seen anything, you know, I'd heard about it, but I'd never seen it happen, you know. It's like, wow. And so, when I looked at that, and then years before that, they used to have a program, and it worked really well. It was called the Bracero program. And what they would do is, instead of illegal aliens running across, you went to a U.S. consulate on a border town, you applied for a permit, you got a work permit, and when we needed labor for different things, they brought a permit over, they paid taxes, they had the withholdings and all of that, and it was called guest worker or bracero. And it worked really, really well. Well, that system ended. Then we came with the system where they hired illegals, pay them under the table, and all of a sudden these people are getting exploited. They're living in substandard housing. I mean, it's horrible what people do to them. So I look at this as a two-pronged thing. Number one, you're never going to fix immigration, period, unless you stop the flow across the border. It's not going to happen. So you've got to look at the fundamental reasons. Why are they coming across the border in such mass numbers? And it increases and increases. Although the ebb's going down with the economy, there's not many jobs that are going home. But a lot of them are. But why the massive increase? And I look back to a couple of things. Number one, when NAFTA was put forward, okay, basically they said, we're going to dump cheap agricultural goods on Mexico, and then we will take any manufactured goods that you put in factories down there, we'll bring them up here. So our industrial base eroded under NAFTA, sent factories down there. Our agricultural goods went in cheap, wiped out the subsistence farmers, took them off the land. There were not enough factory jobs to hire them, and so where do they go? How do you feed your family? There's not a social program over there like we have to take care of this, or an unemployment program. What do you do? Well, they're desperate. Of course they're going to come up here and try to get over here. So one, we've got to deal with the inequalities in with what NAFTA's done to us, and that's a mess. That's got to be reformed. Number two, we've got to do something to seal off the border. I think number three, we do need labor here. We do need people to help. At time right now, we have a lack of jobs, but there are times when we're in boom and we need the labor. But we need those people to pay taxes. We need those people to pay into the system. And so, let us set up a system, streamline it, so when the consulates, they can fill out the paperwork. When they're here, we know who they are, we know where they are, and we also know, we also are collecting taxes off of them. And they're not getting exploited by employers. I think if the business community of this, and I'm not talking the small businessmen, but the big business community of this country really wanted it, the border would be sealed immediately. Immigration reform would happen like that. But once again, it goes down to money playing in the highest levels of government here. And they don't want it because they're making too much money off the deal. And it's an exploitive kind of a thing. So it's a complex problem, but in some ways it can be simplified in than what I just said. I'm oversimplifying the issue,
So
obviously.
why did the guest worker program end?
You know, I don't know. It was the late 60s, 50s, and to the late 60s.